Hi, this is Tony Kent, and this is another episode of Tony Kent Writes and Cross-Examines. I've got into the habit of criticising the title about cross-examination, and there's no way that I'll be cross-examining the person we've got today, because today we have the Godfather of British crime, IAN RANKIN. Ian needs absolutely no introduction, which is why I've written him a really long introduction down at the bottom of the screen. But we've only got 15 minutes. I don't want to miss out on any time at all, so we're going to crack straight on. Ian, how are you?
I'm okay, Tony. The weather's been fantastic in Edinburgh recently, so you know, there's nothing to complain about apart from a lockdown and a virus that could kill you.
Apart from that, everything else is fine.
Apart from that, everything's tickety-boo, as we say.
I've seen quite a lot of pictures actually of Edinburgh from you on your Twitter account and Instagram account. I mean, it's a weird time, isn't it? You live in one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and you can now walk around it with blue skies, taking these great pictures.
I know. I mean, normally these are streets that would be bustling with tourists. It'd be busy cafes, shops, tourist tat shops, all sorts of things, bars, of course. And the middle of town is just deserted. There's almost nobody's working, so there's almost no traffic, hardly any buses. You see a few people on bikes and stuff, but the park. I mean, my flat is next to the apartment block here is next to a huge big park. And at first I was going out there because it was a 2-minute walk from where I live, but it was busy. It was busy with families. It was busy with kids on bikes. It was busy with joggers sweating past you at a range of about 6 inches.
Yeah, that's not good.
So one day I just thought I'm going to walk into town, and I walked right into the middle of town and didn't see anybody. So I've continued that. And while I was there, as you've suggested, I thought this is an amazing opportunity to take some photographs without anybody in them.
Yeah. Well, my office is in the middle of London. It's right near Parliament, about 2 minutes walk from the Houses of Parliament. So I went up there with much the same idea. I had to go and pick up some files, and I thought I'll take my phone and I'll take some really nice pictures. And it's just crawling with people. It's no different to a normal day. It's just, and there's no way they're all out there on essential business. They're definitely not key workers.
Well, I mean, it's a moot point, isn't it? I mean, if we were going to try and take all this stuff to a court of law, and people were having to argue the case, it's like, you know, for a while Amazon weren't sending out books because they were not essential goods, and you go, well, for a lot of people, books really are essential for your well-being, your mental well-being, and everything else. Yeah, they're company for people. They're a way of passing the time. They're just a way of making sense of the world. So yeah, it's you know, I mean, I went for quite a long walk today. We went to a hill near the zoo in Edinburgh. Well, somebody could look on a map and say, hang on a minute, Mr. Rankin was more than so many meters from his home. But I think we're all beginning to crack a little bit.
Yeah, there's got to be some freedom, isn't there? I mean, I'm not going to pretend that we're suffering in the way they were in the war or something. I'm not going to sort of get all sort of 21st century wimpy on it, but there's got to be a bit of give, isn't there? You've got to have some chance of a bit of freedom.
Yeah, and in some ways, to be honest, Tony, it's worse than the war, because during the war, people were still getting shopping. Yeah, I mean, they were still getting their vouchers and going to the butcher for the little bit of meat and going to the grocer for the little bit of sugar and stuff. Whereas we're scratching around going, you know, when's this deli going to open again? I can't get any chorizo. Where's the shop that will sell me some chorizo?
This is becoming a very middle class problem. So you've just finished writing your 23rd Rebus book.
Yeah, and I mean, it was finished during the beginning of the virus, which was a strange time indeed. Normally, we've got a house way up in the north of Scotland in a little fishing town called Cromarty, which sits northeast of Inverness. It's a beautiful spot, but it doesn't have any mobile phone signal, and we've got no TV. Yeah. So I usually go there to start and finish a book. It's almost like a little pilgrimage that I make to this house in the middle of nowhere. Well, not quite in the middle of nowhere, but this place where I'm cut off, and nothing interferes with the process. Well, couldn't do that this time. I started the book up there, but I had to finish the book in Edinburgh under strict, you know, virus conditions. And it was okay. I mean, I got it done and I got it edited and I was quite happy with it. My wife read it. I tweaked it. I emailed it to my publisher and my agent. They got back to me with their feedback, just as my wife had done. And then I edited it again and did a final draft, and it all seemed to click okay. I've got this, we're really lucky. Okay, I've made some money from writing. So I'm not in a cramped little, well, I'm in a cramped little space. We've got 2 flats basically in two adjoining buildings. Yeah. One is the flat we live in, and one is the flat I come and work in, which is where I am now, which has got a living room, kitchen, and a bedroom, 1 bedroom, which is now my music room. So this is my man cave. This is a man cave writ large. And it's nice. I can shut myself off from the world, which is what I really need to do. There's no telephone. I get almost no mail sent here. And at the moment, the building's relatively empty because it's mostly overseas students, and most of the overseas students have either gone home or gone somewhere else. So it's peace and quiet, which of course is what all writers need. But you know, I've done the whole thing. I've done the thing from sitting in a laundry room with a washing machine going in the early days, an attic with no heating in it in the early days.
You even did some writing in Tottenham, didn't you? You managed to do some
Tottenham,
there.
yeah. I went past our old maisonette in Tottenham not that long ago. A friend of mine, we went and saw Tottenham in their new stadium playing Wolverhampton, and we literally got off the tube at Tottenham Hale and walked up Parkview Road and past my old maisonette. And I did have a separate room there. It was a room that adjoined the only bedroom, and it was small and narrow, but it was a separate room. It wasn't the worst writing space in the world. And yeah, a lot of the early, let me think, the early Rebus stuff, pretty much all the early Rebus stuff, and Watchmen, the spy novel that I wrote back then, they were all written in Tottenham.
I mean, I had no idea that you ever lived there, to be honest, until I think we had this conversation a little while ago. As a Spurs fan, I've obviously walked past your masonette as well without knowing.
Yeah, if you come off the tube, you would walk there if you're heading up towards White Hart Lane, almost definitely. The ever popular Dowsett estate is how the estate agents used to put it.
I've had quite a lot of clients from around there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty tasty neighbourhood when we moved in. The reason we moved there was it was literally the only part of London on the tube line that we could afford to live in. My wife worked in the civil service, and she was based on Victoria Street, so we definitely ought to be on the Victoria line. And we just jumped off the Victoria line at every single stop and went to the estate agent to look. And we got all the way down to Brixton. And there was
that's the wrong direction.
But there was nothing we could afford, though. So then we went up the way, and we went up, and we got to Tottenham Hale, and Tottenham Hale was the first place we could afford to buy. And so we bought a one 2-bedroom flat, and it was great. I mean, Tottenham was fine. I mean, we got to know neighbours, and we got to know the place, the pubs. You got to know which ones you could go in.
And when.
If you wanted some knockoff jewellery, you knew which ones to go to.
If you want to be shot, you can go to other ones.
Yeah, that happened. I think we moved in not long after Broadwater Farm.
Really? My God, that was a time to be there.
Oh yeah.
So when you've given that you're writing, it's a song for the dark times is the title of the new one, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I wanted to stretch myself a little bit and stretch Rebus a little bit, get both of us out of our comfort zone. So the majority of the book is set way outside Edinburgh. It's set way up past where my other house is, up on the wild north coast of Scotland, where Rebus's daughter lives.
That is a departure, isn't it?
And he's not really lived. He's not lived. We've not seen much of his daughter in recent books. She gets mentioned, or there's a phone call, and that's about it. Well, I want to see them interact a bit now that he's retired, and you know, traumatic events have befallen both of them in the past. So early on in the book, very early on, 5 pages in, I'm not doing any spoilers here, he gets a phone call, 5 a.m. phone call from his daughter, and she's been awake all night, and she's in trouble because her partner has gone walkabout, has gone missing, and the police are about to come and interview her about it. So Rebus, of course, knight in shining armor as he thinks himself, jumps in the car and heads north to go and help or hinder as best he can.
But so it's a big departure from there isn't really a normal Rebus book, is there? They are very varied, but that's a big departure to take Edinburgh out of the equation. Yeah,
it is. But and then for a long time I thought, do I need an Edinburgh angle? Do I need an Edinburgh story? And it turned out, yes, I did need an Edinburgh story, because I also want to spend some time with the other characters, Siobhan Clarke and Malcolm Fox, the 2 cops, and also Big Ger Cafferty, the gangster who runs Edinburgh, just to see what they were doing in their lives. I was just interested to see what they're up to now. And I found a way to do that. So there's also a case down in Edinburgh that they're working on. And the only contact between Rebus and the other characters is by telephone call. So for all the book, once we get past the first 5 or 6 pages, Rebus is not in Edinburgh. And he's well out of his comfort zone, as I say. And that was interesting for me, because he's no longer a cop, so he doesn't have the apparatus of a police officer to help him. And the cops up there know who he is, so they're quite mistrustful of him, or they're not going to give him any help, because they know he's a bit of a bull in a china shop. Reputation. So all of that makes it really interesting. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the research. I enjoyed writing the book. And I think it's going to be a good one. And it's actually quite long. My books have been getting shorter and shorter. I always said when it felt to me like as I'm getting older, I'm doing shorter books because I'm afraid I'm going to drop dead
before it's finished.
before I finish the final page. And but this one I think has raged out of control. It must be about 110,000 words, which for me is a long book. They were getting down to 90,000. I was happy writing 90,000, which is about under 300 pages.
Yeah, I've got to say, I don't think I've ever written a book under 110 or 115. I'm not sure I could. I think it's a real. Well, I say I'm not sure I could. I've just been asked to write 2 different short stories, which is completely. I mean, I know you've written so many of them. I've never written.
Go for it. I love writing short stories.
Never written one, so I've got no idea how I'm going to do it. But
okay. Well,
yeah. So if you're coming back up to the longer books, the longer end.
Read some good short story writers. They'll tell you how to do it.
No, I definitely will.
No. But when I go back, because I'm so much older, I'm a generation and more older than you. When I started writing crime fiction in the mid '80s, the typical crime novel in the UK was well under 200 pages or 250. Ruth Rendell, P.D. James wrote fairly long books, but your Reg Hills, your Ruth Rendells, your Colin Dexters, etc., wrote books that were around about 200, 250 page mark. And then I think something happened. The American model was there, which was for a much fatter book. The kind of Elroys came along and they wrote fat books. And also publishing said, look, if you want to be taken seriously as a novelist, not just as a crime writer, a fat book looks like it's more than just about a whodunit.
Yeah.
So a lot of us, and technology came along. Computers made it easy to write long books. Yeah. I began on a portable
typing's easier.
Portable typewriter. My fingers were like pistons. I tell you.
I'm just looking at the time, and it's flying as it always does. And there is something I wanted to ask you about before we go. So Brian Cox apparently is going to be playing Rebus. Is it a radio play?
No, it's a National Theatre of Scotland. The National Theatre of Scotland thought, what can we do in this lockdown that might comment on the lockdown? And they came up with this idea of these scenes for survival. It's called. It's a series. It's going to be online, so it's video.
Right. Okay.
Online, and they're all about 5 minutes long. And they said to me, "Do you fancy doing one?" And I said, "Yeah, I really want to know how Rebus is coping without writing a novel about it. How Rebus is coping with the lockdown, because he's got COPD, which is very dangerous. So he probably is locked away in his tenement and can't go out. So it was easy to write, just a 5-minute scene of him in lockdown. And he said, "Well, should we offer it to Brian Cox?" And I went, "Yeah, he's probably too busy to do it, but let's go." And he went, "Yeah, let's do it."
I think you've wanted Brian Cox for quite a while, haven't you? I think I read an interview a long time back.
I mean, way back in the mists of time, I thought Brian Cox would make a really good Rebus. Having at that point really only seen him in Manhunter, where he plays Hannibal Lecter.
He's fantastic in that.
He is good in that. He's just icy calm and cool. But anyway, so here he is. Finally, I've got my man, and he's playing Rebus for 5 minutes only. And I think this series launches on Friday night.
Right. Where can we get it?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, it'll be via YouTube or something, or Facebook Live. I've got no idea, but I'll be tweeting about it and reminding people it's happening. And whether mine will be part of the first tranche or not, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that they've, if not record, I'm not even sure if he's doing it live. He might be doing it live. But if he's recording it, I think they've pretty much got it in the can, because I watched a couple of the rehearsals.
Oh, fantastic. And you say it's on Facebook Live, so does that mean you can't watch it?
Yeah, I'm locked out of Facebook because they think I'm an imposter. They think I'm an imposter who's impersonating Ian Rankin. So yeah.
I did. There was a lot of talk about that when you first came onto Facebook, because everyone knew you weren't on Facebook.
I know.
There was every author I know was emailing every other author I know saying, "Is that Ian? Is that really Ian?"
Yeah, they were all tweeting me as well, going, "Is it really you?" I'm going, "Yeah, it's me." Next thing you know, I get kicked off. I was on Facebook for 5 minutes, man.
Someone grassed you up. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, we're just at 14 minutes 10 seconds. I don't think there's anything else that I can get in 50 or 45 seconds.
Getting a plug for one of your books, mate. Getting a plug for one of your books.
I'll be doing that all the time.
One of the finest thriller writers on the planet.
Well, listen, I now have a recording of Ian Rankin saying that, so you'll probably be you'll be front and center on the third book in a row, I think. I was saying to someone the other day, you're the only person who's been on as many of my covers as I have.
Hopefully not in bigger writing.
My publishers would love to do it in bigger writing.
No, man, that is annoying. I've seen that happen before, and that's really annoying.
Well,
I mean, Tony, you know what? I mean, I'm
going to lose you now because we're 10 seconds left. So
all right.
We'll carry on the conversation afterwards. But for everyone who's watching, I want to say thank you, Ian. Really appreciate it. See you soon.